By the time I returned from the vending machine, clutching only a lukewarm bottle of apple juice and a pack of gum, she was gone. No note, no forwarding address. Just emptiness. No wife, no baby. Only the lingering scent of antiseptic and the faint creak of the rocking chair where she had been feeding our newborn only 20 minutes before. I stood there, frozen in the deserted hospital room, trying to make sense of a situation that defied any logical explanation. The nurse entered, her soft smile fading as she glanced at her clipboard. I asked her, "Where's my wife?" She blinked, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "I'll check," she replied, though it was clear she didn't know what to make of my question. No one had seen her leave. No one thought to question a new mother walking out with her baby. That night, I couldn't sleep. In fact, I barely slept for the weeks that followed. I kept waiting for her to walk back in, to explain that it had all been a misunderstanding, but she never did. I called every number I could find, reached out to her sister, her mother, voicemails and cold silence in return. I even filed a missing persons report, but they looked at me like I was the crazy one. "Are you sure she didn't just leave you?" one officer asked. I wanted to scream, but instead I just nodded. Yeah, she left, took our child and vanished into whatever dark place she'd been retreating to long before the delivery. She didn't want the baby. Not really. I remember the way she had looked at her belly, as if it were a weight she couldn't bear. At the time, I thought it was just postpartum hitting early. I was wrong. Weeks stretched into months. I went to work, came home to silence. I stopped cooking for 2, then dismantled the crib and packed away the toys. And in the midst of my grief and disbelief, something else began to surface. Clarity. She had planned this. The quiet withdrawal, the forced smiles, the sudden interest in our joint accounts, the constant questions about my salary after we found out we were having a girl. Then, 5 months later, when the court summons arrived, I knew exactly what it was for: child support. She walked into the courtroom like a shadow who had just remembered how to put on a smile, thin and theatrical, wearing a perfume that screamed of pity. She didn't even glance in my direction as she sat down, her lawyer murmuring something in her ear that made her lips twist into a smirk. I gripped the edge of the table, keeping my teeth clenched, watching her. Her attorney spun a tale of abandonment, painting me as the villain who left her to raise our daughter on her own. I wanted to laugh, to scream, but I stayed silent. Then it was her turn to take the stand. "I don't have a job," she said, shrugging, not even pretending to feel any remorse. "So I'm not going to stop living off him. He can afford it. Why should I work when he's dumb enough to keep earning?" The courtroom chuckled, and even the judge raised an eyebrow. She smiled wider, as if this was all part of her performance, as though she had already won. That's when I stood up. "Your Honor," I said, my voice steady but my heart racing, unsure if it would break or explode. "Before a decision is made, I'd like to present something." I reached into my bag and pulled out a file, holding it carefully like it was something toxic. Because, to me, it was the truth, and truth can be dangerous. "This," I said, handing it over to the bailiff, "is a certified DNA test." I had arranged for it after she walked out of the hospital, without a word. I had to fight through legal channels just to get access to a sample, since she wouldn't respond to any of my calls. The room shifted. Her smile faltered. The judge opened the file, flipping to the pages with slow deliberation, as if he was trying to stretch every second. He finally looked up. "The results confirm, with 99.9% certainty, that the child is not biologically yours." A deafening silence filled the room, the kind that presses against your ears. She jumped to her feet, shouting, "He's lying. That test is fake. He's just trying to avoid paying me." But the judge raised a hand to silence her. "The lab is court-approved. These results are legitimate." His gaze grew sharper as he continued. "And since you intentionally misrepresented the child's paternity in a sworn affidavit, you've committed perjury." She stammered, her words tumbling out in a desperate mess, her lawyer urgently whispering in her ear. But the judge wasn't moved. He leaned back in his chair, eyes cold, and said, "This court dismisses all claims for child support. Furthermore, I am referring this case for criminal review regarding fraudulent claims and perjury. She collapsed back into her seat, the weight of the truth sinking in. I didn't look at her, not really. I just felt a strange sense of finality. I walked out into the biting cold of the parking lot, the wind cutting through my coat. For the first time in months, I took a deep breath, feeling like I wasn't constantly being hunted. I didn't win, not truly. I lost a child I thought was mine. I lost months of peace, sleep, and love. But as I walked away from the courtroom, I realized that I wasn't walking out because I had been abandoned. I walked away because I chose to leave behind a lie. And sometimes, that's all the justice a man needs. Some people drain you, some people leave you, and some try to destroy you. But the moment you stop bleeding for them, that's the moment you start to heal.